right, New Mexico, my neighbors to the west of me. The National Guard is being deployed to the city of Albuquerque to help combat youth crime in the city. Let's check it out.
The vast majority of violent crimes are committed by people under the age of 40. But police in Albuquerque say they're confronting a wave of crimes committed by those way under 40, as in not yet old enough to walk into an R-rated movie alone. A recent incident highlights the issue in graphic detail. The county sheriff's office just released this drone video from an incident in February. It shows two kids, 7 and 9 years old, waving a loaded gun. Police eventually had to fire rubber bullets to scare the kids into dropping the weapon.
Put it down, baby.
40 going out. 40, 40, 40.
Drop it.
40 out! 40 out! 40, 40, 40!
Crazy. Why the heck are a 7 and 9-year-old armed? It's crazy.
Kids were not injured, but Albuquerque police say teen violence and apparently even child violence is on the rise there, and they don't have the resources to stop it. That's why they've asked their governor to send in the National Guard. Dozens of troops will deploy to the city as soon as this weekend. They won't be making arrests or even holding guns, but they're there basically to support police and to help vulnerable community members who are struggling against this wave of violence. News Nation's Alex Capriello traveled to Albuquerque to learn more.
In the land of enchantment, the city streets of Albuquerque are far from charming. Homeless encampments clutter back alleys, syringes line sidewalks, and men sit on curbs, cuffed. The police chief tells News Nation his officers are overwhelmed.
My officers have arrested 4,000 people this year. They're not the problem. The broken criminal justice system is the problem. APD has not lost control of the city. Everybody else lost their processes, and we're cleaning up the city for them.
It's immediately clear to me that crime really is rampant in Albuquerque.
And that's what happens. It's like in New York City, you know, the hands of police, the NYPD's hands are tied because of the bail laws up there. So there was a lot of complaints how criminals are the police are doing their job. They're doing their job and they're arresting criminals, but then they get put back out in the streets.
Just moments ago, we saw a collision right at that intersection. The suspect taking off on foot. Eyewitnesses say they reported seeing him drop drugs, picked up immediately by others. Now the police have their suspect. But this is the reason why the Albuquerque police chief says that he needs the help from that National Guard. A little bit more.
This guy was one of 3 arrests we witnessed in just a half hour in Albuquerque's dangerous Central Avenue corridor. Police tell me he's been wanted for at least 7 different felonies related to drug trafficking. You could see wads of cash pulled from his pockets. With crime like this happening day in and day out, there's an urgent need to get more boots on the ground.
Right, everybody knows the National Guard's coming in.
80 of New Mexico's National Guardsmen have volunteered to protect the streets of Albuquerque. They've trained for nearly 300 hours and will begin their street patrols at the end of this month.
Have you thought about hurting yourself or killing yourself?
News Nation received behind-the-scenes access to their latest training about intervening in a moment of crisis.
It does hit home, and I do hope that this helps out the community.
Find a way to adapt.
The supporting role of the Guard members is limited. They won't carry guns, and they can't make arrests. But their daily presence frees up local officers to focus on more pressing matters, like the rise in juvenile crime.
Put the gun down!
The Bernalillo County District Attorney's Office says violent crime among teens has skyrocketed 60% since 2022. And in a one-on-one sit-down with the district attorney, he revealed he's charged 46 different minors with murder in the last 2 years alone.
That'll make your stomach sick.
That's an unbelievable statistic.
It is an unbelievable statistic, and it's heartbreaking. We're starting to get a handle on overall violent crime, except for this one piece of juvenile crime. It's going in the absolute wrong direction.
One of the more alarming cases of homicide playing out in the Bernalillo County courts is this one. Police say 3 kids deliberately plowed into 63-year-old cyclist Scott Habermel and left him for dead.
Just bump him, bruh.
The shocking video of the hit and run, surfacing nearly a year later on social media, shows the moment just before the teens carry out the ruthless attack. Police say the car was stolen, and you can see the 11-year-old in the front seat waving a gun. The oldest in the car was 15-year-old William Garcia. Now 16, he's already been charged as an adult. The 13-year-old driver has pleaded guilty to murder and will serve the maximum.
What in the world is a 16-year-old, at the time a 15-year-old, a 13 and 11-year-old doing, stealing a car and running over a man, hitting a man on a bike? Why would anybody think that's any kind of fun? When I was their age, that didn't even cross my mind. Stealing a car, bumping somebody on a bike, and then killing that and carrying a weapon, those things never crossed my mind. There's something wrong with a lot of the youth today. I'm not saying this is the first time this has ever happened, but it's a problem.
Sentence for juveniles, but according to New Mexico law, will be freed once he turns 21. Authorities say the 11-year-old will also be charged with murder when he turns 12 in just a few weeks. The DA says outdated juvenile state laws, which haven't been updated since the 1990s, are partially to blame.
So for now, the buck stops with our state government.
So now the buck stops with all of us on the ground, and I can't prosecute my way out of this. This has to be an entire community effort. We need to come together, recognize this is a problem, and make sure we build in consequences.
Habermel's widow, giving a victim impact statement last week, says she's not ready to forgive. But she hopes all of New Mexico, from the governor to the guard to the cops to the parents, all figure out a way to make the streets safer. More than half of the National Guardsmen volunteering for this mission are locals to Albuquerque. So they want to reassure their neighbors that this is their community too, and they want to protect it from both violent teenagers and rampant drug use like we've seen from just our few days here. Elizabeth.
All right, Alex, thank you so much reporting from Albuquerque.
Thank you for watching.
All right, so before we move on to the crime in Albuquerque and what's going on there, if it's gotten safer, but here's an update on the crime in there in the city of Albuquerque, and things are moving in the right direction. It's good news.
Crime across the board in Albuquerque is down, some more than others, but are residents seeing that change? Here's Juvenile.
We believe we have really turned a corner, and we have crime fighting going in the right direction.
That's what Albuquerque Mayor Tim Keller and the Albuquerque Police Department said earlier this week when they announced that crime is down in almost every category across the board in Albuquerque. APD says through the first quarter of 2025, crimes like homicide, non-lethal shootings, aggravated assault, robbery, and rape are all down. Compared to the national average, there's a difference the department says people should be aware of.
We see crime going down nationally, but you see in Albuquerque, it's almost double that in some cases.
But what do people in the city think? And we asked them if they are seeing the same changes.
Do you feel the same way, and how do you see that here in your community?
I feel the same way. I feel like APD is doing a lot on trying to keep the community more safe.
Luisa Gomez says she's noticed a decrease in criminal activity as well. And speaking as a resident in Albuquerque, that's a big deal to her.
I've noticed it where I live in my area. There's not as much criminal activity. You don't hear about break-ins happening. You don't see homeless people as much.
With this being the first quarter, police expect certain gaps to close. One thing they would like to see addressed is how repeat offenders are handled. APD Chief of Police Harold Medina believes there are too many people struggling mentally who often find themselves in more trouble. Medina adding it's contributing to criminal activity, which can be stopped before it worsens.
They're struggling through mental health, and our response as a criminal justice system is, I'm going to throw you back in the streets to fend for yourself.
For KOAT Action 7 News, I'm Julian Potas reporting.
Huh. Interesting. Well, it is great to see that they're making some headway on the violent crime, or crime in general. Now, I have a question about the country as a whole. Will we start to see a correlation, or have we already started seeing a direct correlation with violent criminals being taken off of the streets due to the Trump administration's crackdown on violent criminals here in the country illegally, And are we in with violent crime or crime going down across the board in the first quarter? I'm curious to see how this will play out in the next year or so, when we get a better picture of what is really going on. But we have some big busts on that front here in Texas, 400, an operation with 1,100 down in Florida. So things are happening. But as you can see here, auto theft is down compared to this time last year in Albuquerque. Auto burglary, residential burglaries down, commercial, shoplifting, violent crime, aggravated assault is down, shootings with injuries, homicides, robbery. So they're making headway. And felony arrests are up. This is good news. The reason why I'm reporting on this is because I saw this story. I thought it was interesting because, New Mexico is my neighbor. I never really talk about them. And it's interesting to see what other, bigger cities across the country are doing to fight crime. And I like to see when things are headed in the right direction, because without public safety, it's really not good for anybody. You have to have public safety in order to have a comfortable place to live, a thriving economy. Nobody's going to want to go out and shop and pump money into the economy if everybody's scared to go outside. But here's what they're talking about with mental illness, and I think there are some connections with homelessness and the mental illness. Well, there are connections. Homelessness has more than doubled in Albuquerque in the last 2 years. These numbers are shocking. Now more than ever, we need your help. Homelessness in Albuquerque has more than doubled in the last 2 years, as I said. 2,740 people reported experiencing homelessness on a single night, up 109% from 1,311 in 2022. 1 in every 2 people surveyed reported that this was their first time experiencing homelessness. People are asked, half of them are saying this is their first time experiencing it. 1 in every unsheltered woman cited domestic violence as the cause of homelessness. So they have some crazy guy, and then he may throw you out of the house. You have no place to go. You can't be with him anymore. So the only thing you can do is, now you're on the streets. I don't know. I'm sure there's a lot of things that play into that. 1 in every unsheltered person was a veteran. So veteran homelessness is a problem across the country. Despite making up only 5% of Albuquerque population, indigenous people made up close to 16% of the unsheltered population. Interesting. Similarly, African American black people only make up 3% of the population in Albuquerque, but make up close to 8% of the unsheltered population. So as you see, there is a problem out there with homelessness. So if they can get a hold of this, they can get a hold of this youth crime that's going on out there, crazy youth stuff going on, hitting people, pulling out guns. It's just nonsense. But hopefully the National Guard will make a difference. I would like to see the results on that when they're available. But great job to Albuquerque. I've only passed through New Mexico. I've never actually visited one of these cities there. I heard Santa Fe is pretty nice. A nice place to visit. And I know New Mexico has a lot of nice. It's very beautiful from what I hear. So if there are any residents out there, I would like to hear from you. Let me know what you think in the comments. Do you live in Albuquerque? And it's good that we got to see a resident out there saying that she does feel safer. So they're doing something right. And it's good that they're seeing positive results. But we'll see what happens. I'm going to leave that right there. Like and subscribe. I'll see you next time. Thank you. Take care.